Greetings, Internet faithful. I am some guy named Rob from On Your Marks Wrestling. And if you're wondering where I've been for the last little while, well, it's kind of complicated. I normally work out of my home office in Alexandria, Ontario, which is kind of where I'm based out of, which is roughly an hour outside of Ottawa, Ontario, which is where my main office is located. And for this past week, I've been called back to the mothership in order to touch base with my team as well as update my work computer on the main network and just generally get caught up and kind of touch base with how things are going with my supervisors and make sure that I'm up to date on all the latest processes and things like that. Now, the one thing about that is, although I really enjoy the shift that I do, is that when I add the commute to the equation, things get a little bit late. Now, just for reference, I work a 4 p.m. to midnight shift, and once my midnight shift is done, I have an on-call which lasts from midnight until 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, I don't have to remain logged in. I don't have to stay awake. I don't have to be right at my computer all night in order to do the on-call. In fact, I just basically go to sleep, keep my phone next to me, and if my phone rings, I answer the call, and I get up and do what it is that I need to do. And once that's taken care of, I go back to bed, and earn myself a cozy little shift premium for doing so. Now, when I'm working for my home office, this is really, really good because my home office is quite literally less than 20 feet away from the foot of my bed, meaning that I can get up out of my chair at midnight, I can walk down a very, very short hallway, duck into the bedroom, go to bed, and if ever a call comes in, I'm never more than a few seconds away from my computer where I can log in, get done what I need to get done, and then mosey back down the short little hallway and go back to bed. This, of course, changes when I have to commute into Ottawa because even though the drive in theory is only about an hour door to door, there are some intangibles that do take up a little bit of extra time and can make the journey a little bit longer and a little bit more involved physically and mentally to kind of follow through with for an entire week. First and foremost is that when I've been coming home this week, the weather has not been very cooperative. Now, the temperatures have all been nice. Don't get me wrong. We haven't had any snow. There's been no freezing rain, but there has been quite a bit of fog and this little kind of misty rain that really kind of messes with your visibility, meaning that as I've been driving home at night, my visibility is complete crap, and I have to drive a lot slower than I otherwise would in order to get home, meaning it takes me a lot longer to get home. So instead of it finishing at midnight in Ottawa, getting to my car about 5 to 10 minutes later, and then driving home and being home by maybe about 1:15 at the latest, typically speaking, I'm getting home at about 2 a.m. In fact, the other night when there was a really heavy fog and a really bad misty rain that was falling, especially closer to where I live, it actually slowed me down to the point where I was home past 2 in the morning. I got home at about 2:30, 2:45 in the morning, meaning that I'm getting to bed at about 3 a.m. Keep in mind, I'm still on call, still responsible for any calls that do come in until 6 a.m., but typically speaking, my son will be up by about 6 a.m. At the very latest, I'm going to get until 7 a.m. before I have to be up and at him, at least for a little while. So, that's sort of one thing. The other thing is that because I have to commute into town, the time that I would normally spend or normally have free to record a video and edit it and upload it for all of you, I'm usually napping because I have to get a little bit of sleep before I have to drive back into Ottawa and then do my shift and then, drive the car home without falling asleep at the wheel and wrapping myself around a tree or a lamppost or, oh yes, deer and moose, which are fairly plentiful in my area, I've come to understand and see and witness and be rather weary and somewhat frightful of. So basically, to make a short story long, which is something that I am incredible at, this week has been something of a write-off for me. I have not watched a ton of wrestling. Now, I have watched Raw, obviously. My recap is already on the channel. I did watch SmackDown. I'm not going to bother doing a recap for SmackDown or 205 Live or NXT at this point. I'm not going to do Impact or Smash or Ring of Honor or any of the other wrestling that I've managed to catch since then. Although I will be doing a recap of the Greatest Royal Rumble a little bit later on, because I was able to watch it and I do have some thoughts on it. But I just wanted to let everybody know why my posting was rather sporadic and not very good this week in terms of quality. I was basically trying to, bubblegum and duct tape my way through an entire week, and I really didn't plan ahead for how I was going to do all of this, but I do have a much better plan going forward that I think is going to work, because I'm going to have a couple more weeks in May where this sort of thing is going to happen again. But that's something for future Rob to worry about. The Rob that is in the present had a reasonably decent time watching the Greatest Royal Rumble. I'm looking forward to going to the SmackDown branded house show at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa on Monday night. Along with Lee, the two of us are going to the SmackDown Live show, so we're going to have a recap of an actual live event that we've been to, alongside our Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night SmackDown Live, etc., etc. So, the next week things will be returning to normal, and plans will be getting put into place for the next time that I have to work in downtown Ottawa, to make sure that at the very, very least, there's something coming out that's of reasonable quality, or something that I feel is good enough quality to post on the channel, that is relevant content to the channel, that kind of keeps things current and moving along. Because I think Lee and I have gotten into a pretty decent little flow, and I don't want to get to the point where I feel like I'm letting the channel down, or letting Lee down, or letting all of you down. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm not just slapdashing something out that's just full of hiss and crap and sounds like garbage and is not really worth putting up in the first place. I have scrapped a lot of takes of half-started videos, because every time that I started and every time that I would get things back, they were just absolutely horrible, and I was mortified at the thought of putting out something that was that lackluster in terms of quality. So there's a reason why nothing has come out or very little has come out in terms of recaps. It's just nothing was even remotely presentable, and I didn't want to put out things that were really, really bad. But we're back in the home studio, at least for another week or so things are going to pick up. The production is going to pick up, and until we put out our Greatest Royal Rumble video a little bit later in the day, take it easy.